think that, you know, everybody has something to say about it. In fact, we got a bunch of people that are already here in the chat.
Awesome.
That have their questions. And I'm thinking, like, as we follow up for the All Black National Convention, I wanted you guys to know that the reason we did this digital follow-up is because I know a lot of you who came to the convention had questions, things you wanted to ask. And so what we decided to do was we said, you know, let's keep the party going.
Yes.
Yeah. So by the way, Vicky, I want to say that you did a great job at the convention, by the way.
Thank you, Dr. Boyce. Thank you so much. I thank you for the honor of it. It was amazing.
Yes. And there's Ronique. Ronique is here. All right. And I think there's some other people that were invited. So as they come in, we'll just kind of let people in one by one. Yeah. And hey, what's going on, Ronique?
Good morning or good evening. I've been off, so I'm crazy right now. How you guys doing?
Good to see you, smiling queen. How you doing, beautiful?
Hi, good to see you too, gorgeous. Hi, Boyce. How are you?
Doing well. Good to see you. And just so you know, we got a lot of people watching. We got a few hundred watching online. And some people watching on Instagram, the real Boyce Watkins. What's up, everybody? We got people that are in the chat that came to the convention. So you guys that came to the All Black National Convention, I sent you guys a special link. So you're actually inside the Zoom. So we'll see your questions first. Because I know that at the convention,
I'm having a little hard time hearing you. Is it maybe it's me? I can hear you, but it's a little low.
Maybe. Are you? Is everybody able to hear me? If you can see me and hear me, let me know. Give me a yes.
No, I can hear you. It's just a little. Hold on 1 second, okay, Doc?
Okay, all right.
Here, hold on one moment.
Well, let me ask everybody else too. Can you guys see me and hear me? Okay. It looks like
she just said you were a little low, but we can hear you.
Okay, it sounds like it's a Vicky thing. I was trying to figure out if it was Vicky's machine or if it was everybody. Okay, somebody said it's low. Okay, I'll try to talk super loud. I don't know if that'll help. But anyway, yeah. So the convention went really well, and first thing I'll say is that I was really happy with the results. We did a survey, and I'll give you guys the link to the survey for those of you who went to the convention. And basically, the results were like almost unanimously extraordinary in terms of people. Like we asked the key questions, like, you know, would you come back to the convention? What did you think about the price? You know, stuff like that. And literally every single person said I would come back. There was one person who said no, and I'd love to talk to that person. So if you are that person, email support@theblackbusinessschool.com, and I want you to write a letter and let us know, because I've speculated it might be that one guy who came because he wanted to be a hater. I don't know if they told you about that. Yeah, the one guy.
I heard. Unfortunately, yes.
Yeah.
I did hear.
But that's the thing, you know. I guess because some of the stuff that was going on with ADOS, like some people interpret that, you know, maybe I have an issue with ADOS. I don't have an issue with ADOS. The leadership of ADOS, I was challenging them to do a little bit of a better job, but I wasn't challenging the people. But a lot of times somebody will come along and try to ambush you at an event. So somebody did come in there, and that's the guy I think who gave us that one bad review. But literally every other person that responded to the survey said they loved it. And so I hope you guys will give it a try. The All Black National Convention, we build it with customer responses in mind. Like we find out what people want, and then we give it to them, you know, and it's that basic. So we're really interested in your feedback, and everybody who's in here, who's in the chat. If you want your question answered, put your question in the Q&A section. If you're in the chat, I may not see the question, but if you put in the Q&A section for any of our panelists, we can follow up. How you doing, Jessica Smith?
Hello. How are you?
Good to see you. Okay, so Ronique West and Jessica Smith and Vicky Dillard were three of the panelists at the convention. And what this is a follow-up. We had so many people that had questions. So we said, okay, let's just get online after the convention and you guys can ask your questions there. And we could then just have a follow-up. So I think the thing I want to start by talking about, if you guys have a question, put it in that Q&A section, and that way I'll see it. But until then, I'll ask a question. So did y'all follow this stuff going on out in Dallas with this Amber Guyger trial?
Who won't take that first?
Anybody can talk. Just go ahead and talk. Anybody.
Okay, I'm sorry, I missed the question. Forgive me.
Well, you know, what we'll start with Vicky, since you just finished talking about the Amber Guyger trial. You were on FlyNewBeingQueenTV.com. You had over 1,000 people watching. What was your take on kind of what happened with that trial?
Oh man, it has literally, I believe, from my observation, set Black America on fire. And in more ways than one, and for many reasons. But there is evidently, even though Botham Jean's brother asked to come down from the witness stand, he asked to come down from the witness stand to embrace, to hug Amber Guyger after making it known to the courts that he did not want her to do any jail time. After we've heard the father in a church service say that he believes that he could be friends with Amber Guyger. After seeing a Black bailiff, female bailiff, stroke Amber Guyger's hair while she was waiting for sentencing. After seeing the judge cry, y'all, cry. So can you imagine what the jury's supposed to think and come back with when they're hearing the brother say she doesn't want any jail time, that he wants to give her a hug and wants her to find Jesus Christ. You see the judge crying before the jury. And then after it's over, you see the judge give her a scripture, a Bible, and a hug. Folks are mad as hell. And for the few folk that are out there that are still of the same mindset as the Jean family, and there are many, there is a rising voice of Black folks that are saying, not on our watch. There are a lot of folks that are really upset and that are angry about it, and they want it to be known that we are not in a season, we're not in a time where Black folk are getting ready to attaboy their oppressors and their oppression. That's what I'm sensing. And so just the imagery, Dr. Boyce and dear family that's watching, just seeing that ignited something in people that we were already on fire, but this added much fuel to the fire when they kept seeing all of these Black, really, coonish, meritorious manumission, butter biscuit gestures, that really tipped it off. And I think it's good in one sense, because you're seeing us rise up in a way to where it's not okay with the condition that we're in. And I believe that it's really going to make us more of a unit. It's going to get worse. Minister Farrakhan talks about this. Things with the Black community is going to get worse before it gets better, because we have a sick love for our open enemy.
Yeah, it was, it's really interesting to watch. The more you dig into it, it's, I'm gonna tell you like this, what's funny is I really think, I was thinking about this, right? If somebody, God forbid, if somebody killed my brother and I'm sitting there on the witness stand or giving the testimony, and I say, if I was to ever say, do you mind if I give her a hug? Y'all better check me for weapons. I might be over there hugging somebody's neck, okay? I might be over there, I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna hug your neck. You know what I mean?
You don't hug a neck, Dr. Boyce.
Yeah, I just thought about that. You can't, that's not even, is that even standard protocol to let the brother of the victim go up and hug the defendant? I ain't never seen nothing like that. Like that put her life in danger. Like, like seriously, like if I was ever asked to go hug that lady, like y'all need to really watch it, because we're gonna both be in jail.
Yes, sir.
I'll be in jail. I'll take her place in jail. She'll be in the cemetery. How about that? I think that's like seriously, you killed my brother. That's a problem, right? And that's so I don't understand it. So did Ronique or Jessica, did y'all have anything to add to that?
Jessica, you want to go first, or?
Go ahead, my sister. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Okay, so I'll go ahead. Well, I would say that, I sit in jury. I've been in a jury before. I've been in sit in a courtroom before. I have never seen that type of behavior. I've never even seen a judge come off the bench to say anything to anybody, so that, first of all, that was my first thing. I'm like, okay, why was this happening in this trial? Because I never even see where, the defendant is talking to the plaintiff. You don't really see that type of action going on in the courtroom ever.
Yes. So
that was like really weird to me. So I'm questioning that. And because this is such a case that is global and everybody's watching it. So that made me even question the actions that happen and why is it being shared at the capacity that it is. But then also, I always think back to, I see that videos going around of how people have jumped on Black people that have killed, you know, their family members in the courtroom.
In the courtroom.
And it just goes back to not understanding white supremacy, the structure we're in, and the things that we're under that control our actions subconsciously and consciously. Because we're literally, showing that white savior, again. So it's kind of like that white savior mentality that we have to begin to understand. The only way we're going to get out of bondage and keep agreeing to this or giving that whole system power is that we have to become aware of what we're doing subconsciously and consciously. I think what people are, the debate is that, well, he can do, forgive however way he wants to or whatever, but like you have to look above that and say, this is a worldwide watch trial. And what you've seen is the judge get off, hand the Bible, say a scripture. You see the the bailiff, the police officer in the courtroom fix the hair. And you seen the brother come off and give a hug. Like you see 3 actions from 3 different Black people towards a white woman in a courtroom where she committed murder.
Oh, I'm gonna dive in right quick because the number used to be 3, but that was this morning. Now I think the number's up to 5 or 6. Let me give you 2 more. Let me give you 2 more. I know Vicky's been on it, so Vicky probably knows. Some of y'all may know. Number 1, I don't know if anybody heard Boldham,
yes,
Boldham Jean's father. They interviewed him, and he said that he would like to be friends with Amber Guyger. He said, "I think I could be her friend." And then here's number 5. I'm gonna show y'all. I'm gonna show it in a picture. Pictures is worth 1,000 words. Do you see this picture right here? Can y'all see the picture?
Yes.
This is a picture on Facebook of the Dallas police chief, Renee Hall, who sorors with Judge Tammy Kemp. And so a lot of people feel that, when you really think about this, right, you got the bondage of the sorority, no disrespect to the Deltas and nothing like that, but you got the bondage of, that comes with the sorority connection. Tammy Kemp was endorsed heavily by the Dallas Police Department, and they're sitting posing together as buddies. You got to remember, just like in the Tekashi 6ix9ine thing where he's on trial and everybody's saying you ain't supposed to snitch on your homies, you don't snitch on your gang. Well, the biggest gang in America is called the police department. The police departments are the biggest gang in every city in America, and they have a don't snitch policy, right? Where they are on code with each other. So when I saw, Tammy, the Judge Tammy, and or Vicky might call it Judge Mammy. When I saw Judge Tammy with the police chief, and I saw them sort of showing this connection that they have, and Tammy gets this glowing endorsement from the police department, you have to connect that with all the other dots in terms of this very strange, very odd behavior in the courtroom. That she has never done this. She has never gotten up and handed the convicted murderer a Bible and cried and gave him a hug. She never did that. So I'd be curious to know what y'all think about that. Jessica, feel free to just jump in.
Right. And I also want to say that, they're saying she got 10 years, but she'll be up for parole in 5 years. So she may only do 5 years. And she'll be out after murdering somebody in their home.
And some said that doesn't include the good time.
Right. Dope dealers get more charges than that. So we got to really begin to question what we react to and what we allow to be sent out throughout the masses. I think this is the message that we're missing here. It's not a debate about an individual. It's truly like we know that media is used heavily against us to keep us in bondage. It always was going to be a slave class in America, and we don't want to continue to be the slave class. So we got to think about this.
That's right.
I agree. Jessica, what would you like to add to that?
Well, I think that this is something that, we're all outraged and seem to think that this is something new, but I think that this happens all over our communities, all over the place. Every time you turn around, we go somewhere, African Americans are often the ones that are not welcome in other countries, other cities, other neighborhoods. But if we see somebody walking through our neighborhood, generally we look and are like, when we think that person's not supposed to be there. But we're always the ones that are open-hearted and welcoming and forgiving and the first ones to extend that olive branch and that hand. I mean, this is something that we've just done. You know, we've always been accepting. I think it's something that's been ingrained in us for the longest time, that we just accept and we, you know, deal with and we welcome, and, you know, that's what we do. And then the other races and ethnicities, you know, they typically stick with themselves and fight for themselves. And we often are divided amongst ourselves and unclear about what our stance is and what we should be doing when we see things like this. Because other people will say, oh, no, that's the Christian thing to do. This is what you're supposed to do. You should welcome and forgive and turn the other cheek. But, you know, and then you have others of us that are like, well, how many cheeks do you want us to turn? So, I mean, at this point, you know, for me, I won't say that I'm shocked, because I think that we've seen this throughout history, that we're always accepting. You know, we'll be like, oh, my so-and-so married a white lady and she's cool and we get along. And we just are very accepting of ethnicities and races, I think more so than other races are.
Interesting. Okay, so do me a favor, everybody. If you're watching online, hit the thumbs up button. Also, those who are in the Zoom, feel free to pop in your question in the Q&A section in the Zoom. This is a follow-up for the All Black National Convention, but I figured that this was kind of such a huge topic that I think that it's important to talk about, particularly given that, you know, that you have, you know, just such a heavy issue. Which was one of the topics we did actually hit at the convention when you guys did your panel and Vicky gave her amazing speech. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up a couple of your questions. Valerie, you're asking about whether or not you get the video for the A, B, and C with the VIP package. You know what? Do me a favor, email support@theblackbusinessschool.com and just tell them that I said that you can have access to the video. Just show them a screenshot of your VIP receipt, and they'll let you into A, B, and C digital. And they'll let you in there for free. So this offer will be available for anybody for the next 24 hours. So go ahead and send it over, and I'll just have them let you in so you can watch the video recording for free. Let's see now. Carmelita says, my question as a follow-up. Now, just so you know, I like if you guys can make your questions short, like a couple sentences. That will be easier for the panelists. Carmelita has a lot to say. She says, my question is a follow-up. Honestly, out of respect, I've been a one-woman activist since I was at least 9 or 10 and continually found people in groups like Dr. Watkins, Fly Nubian Queens, the Black Business School, etc., to speak on the knowledge that I need to continue to champion for my people. However, after the awesome A, B, and C, I'm wondering the best approach for all of us to take to execute on the wonderful knowledge shared, because as we exited the convention, to then see the video that was done about you and the FNQ platform just made me even more heavy. We can disagree, but geesh, we need a clear plan, whether it is to pick your lane and advocate that way, but all this public division makes me feel frustrated, honestly not want to act. Thank you for your response. That's a great question, Carmelita. I'll go ahead and take that. What I will say to you is that, you know, when you are out here really trying to do things and solve problems, you're going to have people that disagree with you. We respect and love it when people add to the plate in terms of bringing new ideas. What we don't respond to are people that just get mad because you're Black and you have solutions. If your solutions are better, then please let us know what those solutions are and we will implement those solutions. But if you're just complaining and attacking, then guess what? You can go join the Klan because you're acting just like the white supremacists that hate Black people when they're trying to build something. Now, what I would say to you, Carmelita, also is as an individual, make your own decision. You are intelligent enough to discern. You come to this platform, you hear what we have to say. I want you to look me in my eyes. I want you to hear the words that come out of my mouth. I want you to go and research everything I say to you. And if you think that anything we say here, we do here, does not benefit you or that it's a bunch of BS, then I do not want you to be here. I want you to go somewhere else. But at the end of the day, you know, you can't do anything extraordinary, different, or impactful without having people that just sit back and complain. And what I would just say to any of those people is, number one, we're willing to work with anybody. Number two, we ain't fighting with no Black people. We fight white supremacy, not other Black people.
Come on.
And number three, if you have solutions, bring solutions. But if you have complaints, then shut up and go away and just go sit in the corner and complain because we over here building as Black people. All right. So next.
May I just do this real quick?
Go ahead. Hit that gavel. Go ahead. All right. So let me see if there's another question. Let's see here. Let's see. Do you think the hugs were just to enhance their social media profile? 15 minutes of fame. using religion as an excuse. I don't think so. Do y'all think that it was done? You know, do you think they were doing this for the cameras? Do you think that this was something that they were doing, like that they were kind of being extra because people were watching, or do you think that this is something they would have done even if it were behind closed doors? Anybody can jump in and answer.
I think they probably would have done it even behind closed doors, because I mean, it's evident that these people were friends, that they're all friends with one another. So if your friend and we are making it about race, but if these ladies, this police chief and this is her subordinate that's worked with her for X amount of years, they're probably friends. We don't know if they've been in each other's homes, coffee, donuts, whatever, dinner, lunch. So if they're friends and your friend is being convicted of a crime, the other thing is that, you know, her superior has the responsibility not to shed light on the race issue, because they don't want a bad light on their police force, etc. So, I mean, we understand what it is, but of course, you know, they have to worry about, you know, the higher ups and all that other stuff. But I think maybe it might have even been a combination. But I do believe that they are probably friends outside of here, and they were showing her the support that they think she deserved.
You know, I was, you know, I don't, from what I know, you know, my dad was a cop for 25 years. And one thing I cannot imagine a city like that, like Dallas, where you got a black female judge who's a Delta and a black female police chief who's a Delta, and them not knowing each other and being friends. And the politics in those places are very delicate. Like, a lot of people think the chief can just do whatever they want, but actually the chief, it really kind of has to, they only maintain their power a lot of times if the soldiers that follow the chief believe that the chief is really an officer's officer. Meaning, if they feel the chief is going to have their back, then they'll have the chief's back. And so I'm really wondering if there's a bias there, because Amber Guyger is a cop, right? So a lot of the cops probably felt like she shouldn't go to prison at all. So I imagine she's stuck between a rock and a hard place, because she's got her hopefully some loyalties to the black community, but then she's also got her so-called loyalties to the police department, which really creates like a huge conflict. So I empathize with her position, but I would bet any nickel in my bank account that there was corruption that went on. I really feel that it was a little too incestuous. You know, I know how cops are. Cops, they like, you think the Crips and Bloods got a stop snitching code. Cops really don't snitch on each other like that. It's really, really bad. And in fact, when my father said he joined the police force, he said that there were white guys who were members of the KKK at that time, and they would stand by him as a fellow cop before they stood by a random white person on the street, which is the craziest thing in the world. But that's literally how deep that blue silence, that blue code of silence really goes. So I think it's corruption. I think it's a problem. And I think that judge is going to go through some hell. I think that if the case had just happened and she got her verdict and it was over, that'd have been done. But the fact that she made a spectacle out of it by hugging the lady, crying over her, and handing her a Bible, that brought the attention of the world. What do you guys think?
I agree, Dr. Boyce. And I think that when the judge did the Bible situation, it was after the sentencing and hugged her. But I still think that the prosecution should appeal in terms of bias with the jury. Number one, because Botham Jean's brother hugged, but the brother hugged before they went to sentencing, and the judge okayed it. Remember, he had to get permission first. But this is the reason why I feel like the judge was that they could invoke the judge in terms of her bias before the sentencing, because the judge was crying when Botham Jean was hugging. I think that was about the time that the judge was crying. So that has to do with the prejudice there. So I'm hoping that, number one, I hope they appeal based on that. But also I hope that the judge is judicially reprimanded for that. Because do you think for 1 second when she was sentencing a black woman for 10 to 15 years, getting ready to separate her from her children, do you think that she went down, she cried, and after it was over, gave her a hug and a Bible? Do you think that when she was sentencing that brother to 5 or 10 years for nonviolent crime, because you know most folks that are in prison are there for nonviolent crimes, majority of people, do you think that she's done that for somebody black before? So to answer the other question too very quickly, my initial response was no, I don't think that they did it for the cameras. But then again, I do think that the judge perhaps was, and I think that because she was so emotional, she did not realize the impact and the trouble that she may have gotten into based on what she did. I do think that. And I think too, that a lot of our boule Black brothers and sisters, those that are considered to be a part of elitist groups, I think that they don't really know what time it is with the rising Black voices and the Black sentiment of rejecting these oppressive racist collaborations. And I think it's very shocking to the judge probably right now to realize all of the backlash is there. I don't think she's expecting that, because what happened when they murdered our 9 brothers and sisters at Mother Emanuel's church? It was more people then that thought that that was gracious and kind and godly. There's a new, louder voice now that's rising up against it. They're saying no, even though we know this has happened in the past before, by us having platforms and stuff now, we are making it known that this is absolutely unacceptable. But as it relates to the brother, I think the brother was trying to be impressive to those that were in the courtroom. I really do. And I think that this was a part of that subconscious attempt to pander to and to really get white approval from a murderer. I think that that's what it was for him. But of course, in the age of social media where we're able to capture these things, I think that I think we're giving them the business, and I think a lot of them are very shocked. Don't forget, the mother has come out now trying to kind of explain, don't misconstrue her son's hug. Did y'all hear that? When the mother came out during the press conference?
I hear that. Okay.
Yes, she sure did. And even though it was still some cooning in what she said, she threw that out there a little bit, and the mother is the one still kind of saying it wasn't just and that kind of stuff a little bit. But the mother, they're aware, I think, of the impact of us resisting this.
Ronique, Jessica, you got anything to add to that? Okay. All right. So what I'll say is that it seems to me, that, in this situation, one thing I was trying to grapple with, and maybe y'all can help me with this, is, how much of this is just their business versus our business, right? What if they, for whatever, I'll admit, I was kind of trying to wonder, what exactly would somebody have to do to your relative before you actually, aren't willing to just forgive them and wish them the very best and say that they shouldn't go to jail? What would they have to do? Would they have to, rape your mama? Would they have to beat your sibling half to death? Like what would they have to do? And I'm wondering, is this forgiveness doctrine, is it just infinite? Like you'll just forgive anybody for anything at any time? And so that's what went through my mind. But then I wonder, okay, first of all, that kid is 18 years old, right? So I think that has to be remembered. He's young. Maybe he'll regret this in the future. But then also, is it just their business? Like, should we maybe just butt out and just say, look, I'm not going to handle it that way if it ever happened to me, but that's your family. Good luck and forget about it. Like, are we butting into something we shouldn't even be butting into? What do you ladies think? Ronique, Jessica?
I think I think it still goes back down to how we see ourselves, right? Because especially with the video that I think Tariq Nasheed showed and a lot of other, new Black media is showing, or with I think it's a video clip that somebody put together of how Black people are reacting to other Black people in the courtroom and how Black people are reacting to white people. And like Jessica said, and even you're saying, and Vicky's saying about I still go back to how we see ourselves. We don't love ourselves.
That's right.
And we love white ISIS color, or we love, the color that doesn't look like us more. So subconsciously and consciously, even when things happen that we react in a different way, and we should not, even if I don't want to react, angrily, maybe I just want to sit there and be quiet and let her get her sentencing. Because now, to me, they were going for 26 years from what I've read. They were trying to get every year that Botham was alive actually sentenced. So this reaction could have lessened the sentence, as Vicky has pointed out. That's my concern by what the judge did, the brother did, and so forth. And so, like, I didn't even think about Vicky. They pointed out that they could even hold her, hold her job in jeopardy, or even talk about that she was, emotionally involved in the sentencing. and so therefore gave a lower sentencing to Miss Amber. But I think, you know, it still goes back to that. When I look in the mirror, I don't see value. I don't see myself as valuable as, you know, the white savior or whatever that we have subconsciously been trained to do for the 464 years that we've been, you know, brought here in America or whatever, enslaved, in bondage, and the constant, you know, subconscious, you know, programming that we have. To see this happen is just like, I was just shocked, to be honest. When I first seen that, I said, this ain't real. Like when I seen the judge, I honestly looked at it, Boyce, and I kept seeing you and Vicky talking about it. I said, maybe this did happen, but I'm like busy. So I'm like, this did not happen, right? So I looked and I started reading, and I was like, what courtroom have you ever been in where you seen the judge get off the bench? Somebody answer that for me, because I'm still confused.
Well, Jessica, do you think that the judge, from her behavior, do you think that she should be removed from the bench or investigated?
Listen, I agree. There's got to be some code of conduct, because I've never seen that anything like that, even in a lax, like Judge Judy. I've never seen Judge. I've never seen Judge Mathis. And some of them probably should. I was a judge, probably would have got off the bench and slapped a few of those people in the court when you watch some of those episodes. And if neither one of them ever got off the bench, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I've never, to your point, I've never seen that. I mean, I wonder if it's an ethics issue. There's got to be a code of conduct issue. You are not being a judge is all about impartiality.
That's right.
And that certainly was not impartial. And so from that standpoint, I don't know about removed from the bench, but I will say that there definitely needs to be some there's got to be some code of conduct. There has to be something, because, and I think that if anything else, that should maybe even be reason to have a mistrial or to appoint another judge. I certainly would appeal and see about getting another judge if I felt that sentencing was not correct. The whole thing is this: it depends on what my motive was. But apparently the family is comfortable with this. But if it was, to your point, if it was you or somebody else, then maybe they would say, yeah, let's have this judge investigated because this isn't right. And then to go back and answer your question about what would it take, my thing, I love my family to death, but my thing would be my child. Do not come for the child, because Ethan will tell you that I have told, even when he's old, so I will set it off.
Yes.
Okay. Jada Pink, I will,
Well,
full on Queen Latifah, set it off for the kid.
Let me throw this out there though. One thing, you were talking about the prosecution and the appeal, that got me thinking about, if there was an appeal, who would have to file the appeal? Like, who would be aggrieved to file this? It would be the prosecutor. Right.
So yes, and it would be the prosecutor if they wanted to say that there was misconduct on the part of the judge, but also to push prosecution would be the family being outraged and saying that they wanted to see a different outcome. But because she seemed to have the support of the family, then it's kind of like they should just leave it. I mean, would they even be willing to do that?
Because it prejudiced, they could argue, I believe they could argue that it prejudiced the outcome. That's an appealable issue. That's one thing that has to do with the actual trial and the case and the facts related to the case. The separate issue I'm saying is, I think she also needs to be judicially reprimanded, meaning by whether it's the Court of Appeals or whether it be through, I don't know, the bar or there's also an agency where judicial for judges, misconduct for judges, just like there's a bar and so forth, when there's a malfeasance on behalf of ethics violations or complaints for attorneys. There's a bar complaints and so forth like that you can make. I'm saying something similar for the judge. So I'm saying there should be two different things. I'm not necessarily saying that she should be indefinitely removed from the bench. I'm not saying that, but definitely I think that the appeals, as it relates, that has to do with the actual case, her conduct prejudiced the outcome, in my opinion. And then the second, separate from that, is ethics from the judge. And I'm speaking from someone, not someone that's trained by law, not someone that understands all of Texas stuff, but I am someone that has filed too many cases to tell you about in federal court, state court, county court, in numerous jurisdictions.
Let me jump in and tell you why it ain't happening. Here's why I don't believe it's gonna happen. I didn't mean to. I didn't tell you.
No, go ahead.
Number one, the family don't care. The family's happy. The family don't even want to. Right. Number two, though, do y'all know what Judge Tammy did before she became a judge? She was a prosecutor, right? So she's got a good relationship with the prosecutor's office already. So, it's not like there, anything's adversarial. Everything in this case was incestuous. The connection between Amber Guyger's a cop. Tammy, what's her face? The Judge Tammy got a strong endorsement from the police department. The police chief and Tammy are buddies, at least the way that picture looks. And from what you would piece together off of that, they have a working association with each other. Judge Tammy used to be a prosecutor, and the family don't care. The family's good. Ain't gonna be no appeal over nothing, in my opinion. Unless the defense attorneys appeal and say, hey, the mama said, or the son said he didn't want to go to jail, so why should y'all even press charges? And I really believe Amber Guyger is laughing, because ain't no way on this earth her family would let a black man get off like that, be hugging a black man who walked in her apartment and shot her like that. Like if Botham Jean had walked up in her apartment by accident and shot her dead,
it wouldn't have been an accident. It wouldn't have ever been ruled an accident.
Right. I think you're right. Go ahead, sweetie.
No, I just was saying that, to your point, it would have never happened because it would have never been ruled an accident.
Right.
They would have been like, he murdered. It would have been murder. It never would have been.
Did say in a weak way, but the mother did say, while she was trying to backtrack on what her son did by saying, don't misconstrue his hug, she also still was saying that it wasn't just for the 10-year sentence. So that's why I'm saying that. And the only other thing that I'm thinking that if they do file is because so much media attention has been on it. You feel what I'm saying? So many eyes have been on it. That would be the only other reason I think they may do something, if they do anything at all.
Well, let me ask you ladies this. Valerie James put up a question and said, do you believe that the Black experience for Botham Jean's family, who are from St. Lucia, is the reason they responded like they did? Had they had the same experience we have in the U.S., do you think the responses would be different? What do you think?
I'm gonna let somebody else talk, because I have an answer for that.
I don't know. I think, that debate is definitely heavily happening right now between our Black brothers and sisters, that have grew up outside the U.S. versus who grew up in the U.S. I do think we have a different perspective, definitely, of white supremacy, because we've been under the system longer and we've dealt with system atop a system. I feel like every generation we can find something we can point to that actually attacked something within the Black community. If you go from slavery to Jim Crow to redlining to mass incarceration to whatever, you can find every generation, you'll find something. Even this generation right now, you got Flint, Michigan, you got Chicago. I mean, you got so much going on. And then, the air has always been one thing. They always test on Black people. It's just one thing after another. So we do definitely have a different experience that most people in our diaspora do not have. So we have a different outlook. And I do believe that probably partially played a part in it, but I also believe religion played a part in it as well. Yeah. So we can't also negate that fact. Also, just because this is a recording, I just need to say this real quick. Yeah. I'm Renee West, and family, if you feel like you're gonna get in the courtroom and something happened to me and you're gonna do that, stay home.
Thank you.
I don't think my family will do it, but me knowing my family, I don't see that happening, but I'm just telling you right now, don't do that. But I'm also proud of our people for even questioning and realizing that this is a bad thing to be highlighting and saying this is a good thing, and start saying, look, we have been oppressed for this many years. You can't come over here, because what happens when, other cultures come to this country? They begin to act as white supremacy. And it's because history is not taught properly in schools, is not taught properly anywhere. So most people don't understand the history and the trauma that foundational Black people have experienced on this realm in America. So what happens is they partake in it, and they begin to be part of it. And then they even start looking down against Black Americans. I'm reading a book right now, and it was talking about how a Black, I don't know where country she was from, but she said she came in and the one of the people, I guess the letter in the country, told her, whatever you do, make sure you never let them know that you're a Black American. Always keep your accent. So it's always distinguished. So most people don't understand that Black people actually are the only one. I was listening to Clyde Anderson today. He said we're the only ones that have fought in every single war in this country. We're the reason why you have the rights to come in this country right now and do what you can do. We are the ones that are the loving ones, the ones that have fought for everybody but ourselves. And now we're starting to rise up and fight for ourselves. Guys, you know, we expect you to come on to be our allies, not come over here and drain as well. So that's why I think it's a lot of different systematic, subconscious behavior, and the religion is playing a part in it too. That's all I'm going to say.
Interesting. Well,
I'm a faithful, praying, fasting woman, but I understand how to put things in context.
Okay. Well, can I say something really quick?
Yes.
One of the things I want to say is there are some very real differences with Black Americans, foundational Americans, as we say, or American descendants of the enslaved or American descendants of slavery, certainly. But in this particular situation, even though I know folks are emphasizing his Caribbean connection, lineage, I don't believe it would be different. You know why? Mother Emanuel. The 9 parishioners, I'm not aware that any of the 9 parishioners in the Carolinas that were non-foundational Black Americans, what happened? Before they were even put in the ground good, what were they doing at Mother Mary's church after they said Dylan Ruth was responsible for the murders of our 9 Black brothers and sisters? What were the family members saying?
Oh, we forgive you.
Thank you. So, no, I don't. Michelle Obama is running around here, and I know, trigger alert, forgive me, I should say trigger alert first. Michelle Obama is running around here in her new book. She's doing really well. She's breaking all kinds of records, going all over. Literally, it's a world tour. That's great. That's wonderful. But in that big old encyclopedia of a book, she is praising George Bush, the murderer of innocent people in a war. More than enough evidence that he hates Black people and God and separate, and not to mention what his daddy did during the Iran-Contra and the crack era as CIA director, as vice president, and then president of the United States, what he did to Black people. She's praising George Bush in her book, and in the same breath, still dissing Reverend Wright in the book. So if she, being a foundational ADOS American, is sitting here caping for white, I just don't, you got to help me understand how these folks that's coming from the Caribbean and stuff is different from us in these situations. We got too many of our own people that's sitting there talking about Jesus and forgiveness and stuff. So no, not in this particular. There are some differences with our experiences. We are exceptional. We have experienced what no other people have experienced. Our stuff is unique, but other folks have gone through hell and stuff like that too. But in this specific situation, no, because look what just happened.
Well, to your point, Vicky, what I'm in these situations, I'm curious not just about who talks and what they say. I'm also curious about who doesn't talk. Right? Like, we see Barack Obama tweeting out his playlist, what music he listens to, or he'll tweet out about the new movie they got with Netflix or Michelle's book. But but when we really go to battle over race issues, I'm willing to bet every nickel that Obama is going to be very quiet or make a statement that is so watered down that it doesn't mean anything. Now, in fairness to him, he's straddling a crazy fence. It's a very difficult fence to straddle, but you're right though. I was kind of saddened that Michelle Obama seemed to go out of her way to really throw Jeremiah Wright under the bus when I could have almost forgiven her for just not mentioning it at all.
Right.
Just or give the man his, because what you're doing, unfortunately, if you're not careful, is you're taking this man who is far more accomplished than George Bush. I mean, if you look at Jeremiah Wright's history in his life, this man knew 6 or 7 languages, multiple languages,
numerous doctorate degrees, served in the military, came home in his uniform and couldn't catch a cab, family.
Right.
Was on a part of the AIDS epidemic before America cared about it. His church is activist. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. No, he's a brilliant man. He spent 40, 50 years fighting for
the
Michelle's and the Baracks. And so I think that people can forgive you if you just don't mention it.
Right.
You kind of go out of your way to throw him under the bus. It tells me that it's either personal, maybe they really are just mad at him, or it tells me that you're really kind of doing a little bit of what it looked like that judge was doing in the courtroom. You're kind of kissing up a little bit to the people that are paying your bills.
To sell those books.
So I would just almost say people, intelligent people should at least maybe go to Barack Obama and Michelle Obama's Twitter. They tweet about their new books. They tweet about, they tweet about all these other issues. Are they going to tweet about this at all, knowing that, 30, 40 million Black people are talking about this right now? That to me is a measuring stick. When Black people go to war over an issue, but I'm not telling you what your opinion should be.
Right.
Black people really just get up in arms over an issue. Are you there with them, or are you sitting in the background being quiet? And I think we should pay very close attention to who sits back and is quiet. Now, let me ask you all this question. Carmelita actually would like to ask if you all could quickly state your name and your background so everybody can kind of know who you are and what you do. Everyone here was a panelist at the All Black National Convention, so this is kind of a follow-up discussion that we agreed to do online. But if you would like to do a quick little summary of what you do and who you are, start with Jessica.
Well, it also says in the initiatives, which I kind of thought that was a thoughtful question. She wanted to know what your initiatives, what our initiatives are that we advocate for as well. So I could start with me. And I'm an accountant, and I have been in both the tax and accounting profession for a very long time. Let's just say that. More than 25 years, now pushing 30. And yeah, so my biggest thing, I'm an advocate with Dr. Boyce for financial literacy for kids. I think that is extremely important, financial literacy for women, really financial literacy for all. But I just believe that if we reach children a lot sooner, and if we teach them, we often feel like we can't teach our children things. We can't teach our children things we don't know, or if we don't have money, we can't teach our children about money. And I'm trying to even help to equip those parents that feel that way with information so that they can kind of help their children. Because I feel like if we equip our children and help them to make better decisions, then that leads to hopefully a better world. Who knows, maybe your children could start helping you take care of you. But I know Boyce says that if you got to take care of your kids, then you ain't do it right. What's the thing you always say? If you got to take care of your kids.
Oh, you talking about when Willie D was on the panel and I said, what was it? Stop snitching, stop ditching, and stop bitching.
Yeah. Yeah. No, but I'm talking about, you're always saying that if we get older and we still taking care of our kids, if our grown kids aren't taking care of us, then that means we didn't do something right.
Oh, yeah. If you don't take care of your kids, then what'll happen is they'll be dependents when they get older.
Yeah, so absolutely.
You'll be 75 years old trying to take care of a 45-year-old who never learned to take care of themselves. And your kids are actually supposed to be an asset in your life, like part of your retirement plan. Like you raise them right and you teach them how to go out and, generate revenue for themselves, then they can come around and they can actually have your back. Like that's what family is. Like we have to have family units working together, not this solo individual thing, because that ain't gonna work. Ronique, well, very quickly, what is your background, ma'am? And what should they know?
Sure. And then I want to answer a question about execution, because I love talking about that. So Carmela's question. So real quick, I'm the blurty girl on the platform. So I'm your nerd. I'm going to come on and talk to you about business and what's going to happen so you can be prepared for the future. So I'm talking about artificial intelligence a whole lot right now. So my background is I was in corporate America for 15 years. I quit my job on my birthday. I think it's a video up where me and Boyce were actually talking about it when we first connected. And then from there, I started for small businesses. I focus on startup and business structure. So the parts that don't nobody like talk about. Everybody like to sell. I like to do business plan, your structure, project plan you through what you really need for your business. So when you get ready to grow, it's already there, as employees, those type of things. Because my background is like in payroll, HR, so I really understand systems and stuff. And then for large businesses, I still focus on system migrations and Six Sigma, which is just like I come in, tell everybody what to do, pretty much. And then I also started my local Black chamber that I'm co-founded and now the president of. So so my ministry is for our people is business at the end of the day. So you can't think of anything, just think she's the blurty girl about business. And that's the ministry that she preaches and she teaches on to our family. And that's the ones that I really step people through. And the other thing I would say is that for Fly Nubian Queen, that's what I talk about, you know. And then for execution piece, I know you said you learned a lot and you've seen a lot of ideals. You got to figure out what you're passionate about. So what is the thing that is pulling you? So is it the business piece? Is it the political piece? Is it the activist piece? What piece is it? And then you got to study, you know, start learning, start executing, maybe join the Black Business School, you know, figure out what piece you want to be in. And then that's how you're going to begin to execute. And then taking a small chunk, start small, go large, you'll be there.
All right. Vicky, tell them about yourself.
Yes, well, I've worked ever since I could, since before it was technically legal for me to work. After being born and raised in Mississippi, moved to Colorado, was supposed to be able to go back to college because I was in college in Mississippi and was unable to do so. I had to go straight to work, and I was in corporate America for some time. After that, ended up getting married again and being investors, which means we purchased property. And I had also an outreach ministry. So I used to go into prisons and teach women, and we had clothing banks, food banks, and nursing home visits, and was very involved in a lot of activist stuff, especially I guess about now 11, 12 years ago during the crash. And I was kind of forced into that glory, as it were. And which is why I ended up being heavily involved in a lot of judicial activism without training, without an attorney, to expose a lot of high profile Wall Street malfeasance and other pretty powerful people that I won't get into detail about with right now. After becoming a target for some of that, ended up going through trial in a criminal case and did about 4 years in a federal prison in Texas, another half a year in a federal halfway house in Colorado, and have been battling basically an illness ever since then for the last 3 years or so. But thankfully, I've been able to do a local podcast here for a while. And then by the grace of God, connected with the great Dr. Boyce Watkins, Fly Nubian Queen, Your Black World. And even though I've been limited and restricted to home, being able to continue my activism in some small way by inspiring and informing my people, even with an illness, using a laptop and a cell phone sometimes, because of this platform at Fly Nubian Queen, I've been able to continue that. And I'm continuing with my health so that I'm able to do even more. But that's a little bit about who I am and my background.
All right. Well, let me show you all this picture, this Amber Guyger picture of her brother. I don't know if any of y'all knew anything about his brother, but you see the brother in this picture right here. I don't know his name. I got to look it up. But what he's doing with
it's a white supremacy sign, ain't it?
Yes, it sure is.
Yeah, they actually made that OK sign into one of the signs of hate. And I think it was I don't know if it was the Southern Poverty Law Center or somebody else, but they labeled that, and apparently that's something that white supremacists are doing secretly.
Yes.
And so that leads me to ask you all this question. Because I still don't know the answer. Why do you think she shot him, and what do you think was going on? Do you think it was an accident? She really accidentally walked into the wrong apartment and got nervous and shot him? Or do you think that there was something else happening that maybe we don't know about? Or maybe she reacted to him differently because he was Black? What do you think happened?
I think it's her nature. Black folks are acting like we're so shocked and amazed when we're starting to see white folks be themselves. Let me tell you something. We have a family dog for some years, right? And at the time when I had one of my large properties, we had a lot of acreage, and we were out there with snakes and neighbors with horses and big dogs and everything, and squirrels and all this kind of stuff, right? We got this cute little sweet little terrier, right? Domesticated, right? Mm-hmm. But when he was in his environment outside and he saw a squirrel, he killed squirrels. Mm. When he saw mice, he killed mice. And you know what? I didn't want to have anything to do with the little family dog, y'all. I didn't want him nowhere near me. Don't be near, y'all. It was so crazy. And my mother was tripping because she was like, oh my gosh. I said, I can't deal with him. He's a murderer. But you know what? When he's in the right environment, his nature pops up. So why he doesn't poop in the house, why he knows how to obey. But when I put him outside in the environment, his nature, he starts to act like himself. So white folks, they know not to kill each other. There's no epidemic, there's no crisis of white folks killing white folks. We see white folks cussing police officers out. We see them looking for a man that was a murderer. I remember that man that killed a few people, injured some other ones, and was running around butt naked, and the police was being gentle and sweet and kind when they just apprehended him a few weeks ago. When they got Dylan Roof, the one that they said murdered the 9 parishioners at Mother Emanuel's church, remember he fled. It took them a while to find him. So they knew that they was looking for not just a murderer, but a mass murderer, and they took him to Burger King. So it's not a crisis. It's not because they are not trained right, and it's not, no, it has to do with also a subconscious thing where it relates to, and Dr. Frances Cress Welsing talks about it. Please read her book, The ISIS Papers, The Keys to the Color. Please read the great Dr. Wesley Muhammad's book, Understanding the Assault on the Black Man, Black Manhood, and Black Masculinities. These books give us receipts and insight into the psychology of this people. We don't get to just go around and start saying, I wonder why, I don't know why. When our people have taken their degrees, they've done the homework, they've compiled the receipts, and they're showing us evidence of this. And it's an extension of what the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has said. And of course, Elisha Muhammad, who wrote a book that's called Message to the Black Man last century, giving us the insight into the nature of this people that would not change. So I believe that there is something in the nature of white folks, because every time we look up, we're saying, but we didn't have a gun, but our hands were up, but our this, but our that. It's not making any sense. There's something invisibly that's also happening with them. And I think it's a part of their nature to where that's what took place. Because once she realized, if you want to believe, as even some of the attorneys have conceded, yes, she was at the wrong floor, she was in the wrong house. But once she realized that, she knew that the man was sitting on the couch eating ice cream. She didn't leave out of the house because he wasn't following her. The evidence shows that. She had it in her to kill. And as evidence of that, which the prosecution was able to show, they pulled up, and I read it today and I read it yesterday during my podcast. I'm almost done. Lee Merritt is one of the attorneys for the family. They managed, Dr. Boyce, to pull these posts from Amber Guyger before she deleted them on social media. Mm-hmm. And do you know the things that they were reading? Do you know what he said? While she was supposed to be interrogated, she went about removing things that she knew was racist. Such things like, I wear all black to remind you not to mess with me because I'm already dressed for your funeral. No one ever thanks me for having the patience not to kill them. Personally, I think I deserve, this is the third one. Personally, I think I deserve a medal for getting through the week without stabbing someone in the neck with a fork. On and on and on. They also showed, this is not speculation, this woman was still sexting, sending sexually explicit messages to her very married partner that she was having an affair with. Fine, okay. Before the incident, they said around the time of the incident, and after the incident. Not to mention statements that they pulled that she said about Dr. King, not to mention Martin Luther King, not to mention all of these other things. So it's, to me, it's their nature. And that's all I'm gonna say about that.
Okay.
I would say, yeah, for sure. I'm sorry, Boyce, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, you know what? This is why I go back to this history and learning, like how everybody's ancestors. I feel like one thing I say that our enemy does is study us well, and we don't study them. And we have to begin to do that, because when you go back, you listen to Carl Anderson, even this book I'm reading right now, which is like What Mama Couldn't Tell Us About Love. They talk about how they took, when they wanted more Caucasians in America, how they took them out the jails, the asylums, and so forth, to put them here so there would be more of white them people, than black people or natives on this land. So this is their ancestors. So when you go back to the nature of what we are dealing with, I always feel like we're not understanding what we're dealing with. Like I get that we're deep spiritual people, but I think we forgot the lessons of understanding who you're dealing with, right? Everybody's not made like you. Your bloodline is not the same. We're completely made differently. Jackie got the guy. Well, look, we're completely different, and that's the part that I feel like for if one thing, I feel like we're starting to understand that, but we have to begin to study them like they study us. And we got to study ourselves because our history has been erased. But once we begin to understand, then we can begin to bring things into context to the day. Like Vicky said, she was sitting there deleting her messaging. Her brother was throwing up a white supremacy sign. So if you guys don't know what that is, when you see that, that's a white supremacy sign, family. If you didn't understand that, that is a sign of that. And then you brought up Dr. Frances Cress Wesling. She said, forgiving whites for acts of racism is a mental illness on the part of Black people that is literally causing us even more pain than we understand on our daily lives and daily. So I think we gotta really take into context what, not only, not everybody's like that, of course. We have good and bad people everywhere. But for her nature, from what she showed, because she knew that was wrong, she wouldn't delete anything if she didn't think it was wrong.
Well, do you think that well, not to defend her. I mean, I don't like any of what I saw, but I asked myself a really hard question. I said, how would I look at this case if Amber Guyger had been Black, right? Where you could take race completely out of the equation and somebody just walks in somebody's apartment and shoots them. And I think, but I think that also begs the question, would this have even happened if they were both Black or if they had both been white? That right there becomes an important question to ask. But if you make the assumption that the exact same scenario went down and Amber had been, say, another Black man or a Black woman, it's interesting because, first of all, the case wouldn't have made national media, and then also we would probably have a very different reaction to it. And so what do you think about that? I mean, do you think that go ahead, Jess.
No, so let me say this though. This is one of the most important pieces that no one seems to be highlighting as much as I think they should. She is a trained,
come on now, come on,
police officer.
Say it again, trained.
On every cop show I've ever watched, on every TV show I've ever watched, they have training simulations. Ooh. You go through the training simulation, they pop up the little girl with the dog. You don't shoot them. They pop up the bad guy with the little rope mask thing on his face. Now you shoot him. You would shoot the old lady. If you shoot the old lady, you got to start all over again and you got to do your training again. So I walk into my door and some Black man, if I'm a white, or how about this? I walk in my door and some white man is sitting on my couch. I believe that's my couch. I don't know why I don't know my couch. If I turn the light on, maybe all the lights was off, but you turn all the lights off, but I see the stranger on my couch and I am correct, going to pull my gun, but I am going to announce who I am and I am going to say, if you do not leave in this amount of time, and if that man said, ma'am, you in the wrong place. Well, I would have looked on the wall and saw the white supremacist sign on the wall, the picture hanging, and I'd have saw, or whatever, or no, I'd take it back. I'd have saw the Black people on the wall in the picture and I'd have said, last time I checked, I didn't hang them Black people on the wall right there. So maybe I'm not in the right place. I don't understand where the pause. Now, an untrained, unskilled person, maybe, because I'm going to tell you, I've told my son that and he's 14 now. I said, let me tell you something. You're getting into high school. I know y'all try to do pranks and funny business, but if you break into my house, I'm going to shoot first and ask questions later. And I don't want to bury my child. So don't play those games with me because it's not funny. But I'm not a trained police officer. So if I notice a threat and I come in, where is that moment of conversation? And the other thing is, if the man has an ice cream bowl,
come on.
I don't know if the spoon was in the mouth when you walked in. I don't know if it was dipping. I don't know what point in the bowl, the ice cream I don't know those factors. But I would think that at some point there was a pause and there had to be some conversation. And you had to look around and see that the items in that home, and maybe you didn't, I don't know. Or maybe he tried to stand up and that startled her. I wasn't there, I don't know. But I do know the police officers are trained to pause. Second point I want to make is going back to two things that Ronique said, which is this. We need to learn and to read and to be skilled. I watched Snowfall. I don't know if many of you watched it. I love that show. And there's an actor who is the main character's from England. His name is Damson Idris. And he said that he was driving in Hollywood and a police officer pulled him over. Now, in this show Snowfall, they have to have that accent. You know, they all talk like Snoop Dogg, and they hold West Coast vibe. And so he had to learn how to speak that way. He had a dialect coach, which was Dub C. Shout out to Dub C. And so, but he said when he got pulled over by the police, he immediately pulled out his London accent to let them know, as a Black man driving in Hollywood, that he was a foreigner, because he did not want to be mistaken for a Black man, because he understood what pulling over a Black man meant. So if they even know, why don't we know? Why are we confused? Even foreigners, people who are from our country, who come over here and act like us, who get paid to act like us, even know, oh, nope, this ain't the situation. Let me pull out my other accent. You know what I'm saying? So let me pull out my real one, because I know this fake one is not going to fly here. Now, if he goes to the hood and faces the situation, then he's probably going to fall on the other one. But he has enough sense to code switch and understand what it is, and we don't. And we don't understand and read and get the information that we need. And as you said, study your opponent. And also that same actor in Snowfall, which is so crazy, and spoiler alert, if y'all didn't see the last season, then turn this part off. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And he found out that this person that he was buying drugs from was from the CIA. So he started he went to a historian, and he started reading about all of the drug wars and all of the things that happened with the CIA and how they treated our people. They talked about how they killed the Black Panthers and all that, but he needed to read because he needed to know who his opponent was. We do not study our opponents. That's why we have these movies it's so amazing that these Black kids in Africa play chess, because you study your opponent. We should all play chess. We're not even out here. Half of us ain't even got half the checker pieces, let alone to be playing the game. So we have to start studying and understanding the world that we live in and the role that we play in it. And it's a war out here, and we have to figure out how to win. And we're not even studying. And
let me throw out a question. Angela Green made a quick comment in here. She was at the convention. Good to see you again, Angela. She's an attorney, very smart woman. She says a family has a right to deal with their grief however they see fit, even if it may not look appropriate to the general public. However, do you all think that having these conversations will have a tangible effect on cases like this in the future? We can start with you, Renee. What do you think? Do you think that these discussions will impact future cases, or are we just yapping to no avail?
And you said that was for me first?
Yes.
Okay. I can't really, you see like you went down a little bit low. That's why I'm kind of like doing like this. I don't know if you can turn up your mic, but but yeah, okay. So yeah, I think these conversations are critical because, and the reason why I say that is because we are witnessing our people starting to, I don't like to say woke or wake up. I just feel like we're starting to critically think about things. So whether if it doesn't, because we don't own the justice system is not made for us, is not for us, is not part of us. But it's critical that we understand when we come in context with the justice system or whatever we're facing, that we have had this conversation in New Black Media, in our safe spaces, whatever, even in our homes, so we know what we're going to be facing. Because for far too long, we've been so socialized. We're all trained the same way, and we're not aware of what we're dealing with, right? A lot of us are still not aware of what we're in, that we're in a war, that, you know, and we're the opponent, you know, or whatever, and who our opponent is and who we should be going against. A lot of us are still unaware of this. So I don't care about trying to change the next freaking trial or whatever. I'm worried about the top 10 to 20% or the 30% that's trying to understand what are we dealing with. They see the changes that are happening, and that we're having these conversations to our people, because what we need to have and what we gotta have right now, I don't know if people understand what we're facing soon. We gotta get our people up that are on the tip, that need to hear these conversations. They need to say, okay, I'm going to get off of this broadcast and I'm going to study more. I'm going to learn who I am. I'm going to learn my opponent. I'm going to pick up the books that are being mentioned here. We need to start reaching those people more, because it can't take just a Boyce. It can't be just a Renee. It can't just be a Vicky. It can't be Jessica. We need everybody that's willing and ready to make sure that our people are going to be protected and good, even in all these systems, that they do begin to do this. So yes, these conversations are critical. They beyond critical. I'm gonna be honest, because I feel like a lot of us don't understand where we're at, and we got to wake up.
Okay, well, I think that I agree. I think these conversations do matter. I think that they're very self-conscious right now. I think that they know the whole country is talking about them, and for what I've read, the judge is under investigation. There are people filing complaints against her, all kinds of stuff.
That's what I was just fixing to tell us. I got it right here. Mind if I just read the top, Dr. Boyce, real quick? This is from dfw.cbslocal.com. They put this out just this afternoon. It's called, this is one. It says, Freedom from Religion Foundation files complaint against Judge Tammy Kemp for giving Amber Guyger her Bible. Very quickly, it's talking about the fact that this particular organization, following the sentencing of 10 years in prison, State District Judge Tammy Kemp gave her a Bible, hugged her, and prayed with the former police officer now convicted of murder. The organization states, and I have a copy of the complaint, which I won't read it all, but here's a quick excerpt from it. The complaint states, "We write to raise your awareness of Judge Kemp's actions at the close of the trial, during which she gifted a Christian Bible, instructing the convicted criminal on how to read the Bible and which passages to pay attention to, and witnessing to that convicted murderer. These proselytizing actions overstepped judicial authority, were inappropriate, and were unconstitutional." And it went on from there.
Interesting. By the way, I want to give a shout out to Real Talk, who just made a donation in the super chat. So whenever somebody does super chat, I want to make sure I read their question. He says, "Why did the brother hug the killer? I am late." I don't think anybody knows why he hugged the killer, other than him saying, "We forgive you. We wish you the best. I don't want you to go to jail." And that speaks to what, to your point, right? You said, so the Judge Tammy, what's her last name? Tammy Kemp. Judge Tammy Kemp. So they filed a complaint against Tammy Kemp, the Freedom from Religion Foundation. And a lot of people, when they heard all this forgiveness, they're just puking forgiveness everywhere, which was making a lot of people sick. A lot of people, unfortunately, it made a lot of people look at the Black church funny. And I don't personally like that, because I don't think every Black church is the same. I don't think it's fair to condemn the entire Black church over one incident. But here's something, Dr. Claude Anderson wrote this in his book, Black Labor, White Wealth. And he talks about church, just sort of some of the church doctrine, the less productive sides of the doctrine actually really accelerates and encourages this kind of behavior. And it was strategic, right? You have the Black codes that said, look, we are scared of these people. We got to keep them, quiet and humble and meek and scared, and, asking for forgiveness. And we'll just pretend like we believe the same thing until the stuff hits the fan. Then we're going to go kill everybody if you mess with us. In 9/11, there was no national conversation about forgiving, the people in Afghanistan, forgiving the Taliban, forgiving Osama bin Laden. They were like, okay, how long is it going to take us to go get revenge, right? So let me read this to you, and then I'd love to get you ladies' take on this. It says, all of societal's institutions supported the established public policy for the use of Blacks. The churches, schools, businesses, and governments joined in the alliance against Blacks. They were part of a larger social network that systemically concentrated power, wealth, and authority and resources in the hands of white society and consigned Blacks to a subordinate and exploited status. The churches offered biblical justification for Black enslavement, denouncing Blacks as heathens and bearing the mark of Ham. They preached the doctrines of white superiority and Black inferiority and excluded Blacks from or segregated them within the congregations. Within the churches founded by Blacks, ministers internalized their conditions, taught Blacks meekness and resignation, and a nonviolent strategy for gaining access to their rights and white-owned and white-controlled resources. What does that statement mean to you? Anybody can jump in first. Jessica, doesn't say anything for you.
So, yeah. That's, as you were reading that, I was thinking about the fact that I'm raising a Black man in this society, who I am raising to have conversations about a higher power to have conversations about God and our beliefs in God. And it's funny because, you know, kids often go through that process where they don't believe certain things about, oh, this didn't happen. I don't believe this is true, or that particular thing didn't happen. And so I find myself having these conversations and trying to, even to your point, what do I want to say? I'm trying to have the conversations to have him to understand that it's his duty to find out the truth about what he believes in his, you know, religious walk and how he experiences things, in terms of this forgiveness and in terms of how the church handles it. I personally think that there are many churches that are not meek and that do stand up. But the thing about it is that sometimes I think we feel we have to be that way because they are out here killing our kids and killing our adults. They're killing our women. I mean, at first we were outraged by all these men, and then we saw, you know, Sandra Bland and before they just, you know, our women may just disappeared off the face of the earth. But when you have women now being brutalized in jail cells and things like that, so now we are starting to stand up and be outraged by those things, and many of the churches are being outraged and not necessarily being meek. But I think that in some instances, we also believe, many churches believe that to resort to violence is being barbaric, like the people that captured us and enslaved us. You know, I think from us having years and years of being beat. But what's interesting is we can do it to our children, though. You ever notice that? We want to be meek in the church. We don't stand up. We don't believe in violence. Everything is nonviolence. But then we will pull out, spare the rod, spoil the child, and beat our children within an inch of their life when they do wrong or do right. So it's interesting that we take the approach that we can do it. We can use it in our households, but we can't go out in the street because we can't do that because we want to save our own lives and make sure that our children are well. So we use it to temper our children, but we don't use it to keep our children alive. And so, you know, that's consistently how it's been throughout, you know, history. So what do you do with that? You know what I mean? Because we can't go out in the street and just be killing people because they kill us. Because now you see, you know, what happens. If we kill somebody, you know, if we steal, what did that lady steal? $150, we get life. So in this country, because we're in this country where this is their religion and this is how they choose to move and we choose to be here, what do we do?
Yeah, well, that's interesting. You know what's funny? I'm a proud receiver of whoopings when I was a kid, and I'm not gonna say I deserved them all. I'm not gonna say it was the optimal parenting strategy, but I'm gonna say that it would have been hard to control me without some sort of something to kind of scare me straight. Like I'm just gonna tell the truth. If my mom had just tried to put me in timeout and talk me out of stuff, I would have just been like, yeah, okay, keep talking. I'm gonna go do what I'm gonna do, right? But with that said, though, you know, I remember that, you know, the philosophy in our house, my grandfather used to say he actually was okay with my mother giving me spankings because he actually felt that the spankings would save my life. He said, you better spank him. That, again, I'm not saying this is right. I mean, it's old school. You know, he's born in 1940 or 1935, something like that. But he used to say, you know, you need to go ahead and give him the whooping now and control his behavior so he does not get out here and try to act out with a cop who is going to shoot him or a prison guard who will beat him to death. What do you all think about that? I mean, is there any logic to that? And also, you can feel free to respond to the initial topic in the beginning, whichever direction you and Ronique would like to go, Vic.
I love this. I love this topic, and I'll try not to go too deep on this, but just suggest that that they go to flynubianqueentv.com to watch my podcast that I did the last 2 days of podcast, and then I also did one this morning, y'all, in rollers with some sunglasses on, and the head. I was on fire, so I've been on fire all day. And I did that one on Facebook at Fly Nubian Queen today. So please check those out because I talk about the spiritual element of this. It's impossible. It's impossible to separate the inextricable connection between religion, specifically in this situation, Christianity, this brand of Christianity, with what I believe is the reason Botham Jean's brother hugged Amber Guyger. And to confirm that, in my opinion, is when he said, for her, to find a relationship basically with Jesus Christ. And of course, the family was very spiritual. You see that he was a worship leader, Botham Jean himself, on and on and on. This is ingrained. It's programmed, it's taught, it's dogma, it's doctrinated into us to turn the other cheek, forgiveness, the misconstruing of scripture, the tampering with scripture by our open enemy has been passed down to Black people because they knew that we were the most spiritual people on the planet, and we are. They decided to connect our bondage, our oppression to God. When you do that for us, we collaborate in our oppression. So we think it's the will of God to endure this mess. And so then they tell us there's a heaven in the sky in the invisible realm somewhere, while we're down here building their heaven, building their plantations, building their businesses, pimping our intellectual property, pimping our prowess, intellectual prowess and so forth for their own benefit. So they didn't even allow us to read at a time. We were not even allowed to have a Bible at a certain particular time. So we were trained and we were taught by the people that was butt breaking us, that was ripping our bodies in two, that was tarring and feathering us, that were lynching us, that was setting our bodies on fire, that were impregnating us. We took their word for who God is. And that continues today. That's still in us. That's the manifestation of the hugging and the kissing and the bringing out of the Bible. And then when they made God, who's a Black man, this is Vicky talking now, in my belief, into a white man, we see this sick, twisted relationship we have with our open enemy where we bow down to and we do things for them that we ought not. This is the manifestation, in my opinion, of why he hugged this killer, this terrorist, this murderer of our people. And so please check out those podcasts because I go into detail about it. I talk about even recent history, them finding what's called a slave Bible. And the slave Bible showed where they intentionally kept out certain portions of scripture that would lend to Black folk feeling the need to rise up and to rebel against their oppression. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad has been teaching almost 100 years that the white man tampered with the scriptures, even though in the nation they teach from both books. There's treasures in it, but you cannot be taking the exegesis or the interpretation of that scripture from the one that who bust wide open your booty, who raped your mama, who stole you and stole from you. You can't do that, baby. And so then when we're starting to tell the truth about the interpretation of scripture, the forgiveness part, the turn the other cheek part, you need to apply that to your brothers and sisters. But people love it. I'm saying this and I'm done. I'm gonna give you an example. We love David in the Bible, don't we? The Christian, we love some David. David killed people in the name of God. The people that we talk about often, the God that you say that you believe in, the God of the Christians, the God of the Israelites, the people of the Bible, they were doing what they did in the name of God for the sake of justice. So just watch a recent movie on the birth of a nation, not the birth of a nation from the early 20th century that had the Ku Klux Klan in blackface and that was shown in the White House at its premiere. No, the one that our brother Nate Parker did recently called Birth of a Nation, where he gave us an insight. And much of it was based on a true story, but related to our hero, our revolutionary preacher, Nat Turner, who also believed in the white Jesus, right? And he got an interpretation, a radical interpretation of the scripture when they messed with his woman. And the enemies of the Bible that he taught about the whole time, he immediately got the revelation that no. The Bible, the scriptures are alive, they're active. And when we're reading about David, we're not reading about David, we're reading about ourselves. When we're reading about Ruth, we're not reading about Ruth, we're reading about ourselves. It's the stories, it's the principles that we're supposed to extract from those scriptures. And what Nat Turner understood very quickly was that the people he was reading about, the enemies that the people of God were fighting about in the book that he was reading, in the book he was preaching about, were alive and well. And it was that white man that had enslaved and oppressed he and his people. And he immediately got the revelation and the shift in the interpretation when they assaulted his woman. And he went about doing justice the David way when he got that revelation.
All right. Well, it is interesting. I mean, it's when you talk about this, I would say at the very least, if you are tied to the Christian church and committed to that, I think taking a step back and kind of really analyzing what you're being taught and making sure that it benefits you is a good move, because we know for a fact that religion was used to control people and to keep us under wraps, to keep us peaceful and everything else. And then you move forward to the civil rights movement where, you're trying to do two things. You believe that the white man's ice is colder, so you're trying to get next to his ice, which I think many of us believe that might have been a mistake, right? To literally let somebody bust you upside the head so you can get the right to go give white people your money. That almost sounds like a mental illness. And then two, we were sort of told that doing this in a nonviolent way was the only solution. And I remember just kind of thinking, this doesn't make any sense. So you're really telling me that I got to really let another man beat me half to death and just hope that somebody feels sorry for me enough that somebody eventually helps me. That is a debilitating way to think. I can't imagine. Last time I thought like that I was about 6 years old, when I thought that if I cried to my mama enough, she would let me have some more cereal. Like that. I remember that mindset. You know how it is when you're a baby and you know your mama's nearby and your mama reacts to your cry, so you start crying. You start crying extra loud in her direction. I was like, I'm not a baby. I'm a grown man. I can't do that. I don't understand this idea of letting this little scrawny little white man beat me upside the head with a billy club. We just might both have to be dead today. But it ain't happening like that, So I'll let you ladies get the last word because we kind of gone a little bit over our time, but I've had a really good time talking to y'all. So Jessica and Ranique, what say you about anything? So just throw out whatever comes to mind.
Yeah, I want to kind of address a couple of things. So just I've been listening to everybody, and I was kind of writing down just a couple of notes. And Miss Vicky, she kind of got into it about the slave Bible, and I challenge everybody who's listening and looking, like, look it up. It's on YouTube. The Bible, the slave, like it's still sitting in one of our museums today, and it shows you how big the actual Bible was. And like you said, somebody talked about the letter J. Yeah, Yeshua, who is really our Savior, not Jesus. The original name. We really want to make sure that we understand who that is, not white Jesus, but black Jesus. Okay. So you got to really begin to transition to that and start studying. Open yourself up and study. We're not saying we know we're spiritual people. We're not saying get rid of spirituality. We're not saying that God's not real. We're not saying any of that. What we're telling you is that you have to understand what was given to you when you got brought here over the ship and what was taken away from you. That's the part that is the key that's missing. I'm let that go. But back to what Clyde Anderson said. I remember when I was riding through my city and we're starting to look at like houses and stuff. And we were looking at like the houses that are kind of like in our land bank. I mean, they're kind of low cost, houses that, you probably want to tear down, build something else on, you maybe rebuild, but it's low cost. So it's a good, investment property for low cost for people who may want to start getting into real estate. And what I noticed was I started counting the churches. And I looked up and in a 4-block radius, I had counted probably about 12 churches, no lie.
Wow.
It was a church. Like what I noticed is we were going from like 1 block and we would go 5 houses and I would see a church. We would go another 5 houses, I would see another church. And I said, whoa. How can we be in an area where it's this many houses and, it's people still living there, but that these people are like under, in poverty and so forth, but it's so many churches on every single corner. And I was riding with some of my friends because we're doing investment groups and stuff, and we're looking at these houses, and it bothered me to my soul. Because I just began to understand what Clyde Anderson's statement was saying. And how the best buildings were the churches, to where we looked up at one church, we thought maybe the church was closed. Some man pulled up. So we started asking them questions. We said, hey, is this church open? They were like, yeah. I said, what do y'all do? Like, we do a lot in the community, this and other. And I'm like, looking at the community, I'm like, how can you comfortably go to church on Sunday? Drive through that community
Uh-oh.
Now, I'm telling you, like, I was so bothered. I was like, and not begin to question some things.
Mm-hmm.
Seriously.
Yeah.
As a people, we got to really begin to say, okay, what is really going on here?
Mm.
And what's really going on with our religion? Because I stepped back and I was like, well, I mean, it made me stop. I said, stop the car. Because there's no way I didn't just count 12 churches.
Mm.
Wow.
I was looking at the house. The other thing I want to say is we got to be careful about the training in police. I have family members who are in police officers. My daughter loves, law enforcement. She's trained. She was a CO. Actually, she worked in the jail. My auntie is a retired police officer. My grandfather, whatever, they firemen, whatever. Like this helping people is in my bloodline, like seriously. And we got to understand what we're police trained for. Because like we're saying, she got all this training, and I agree with that, but we got to remember socialization and what everybody has been taught in America is to what? The anti-Black agenda, as Ms. Vickis said.
Preserve whiteness too. Yes, ma'am.
So that overrides any training in any situation because we have the data to prove it.
Yep.
People have their hands up. They're sitting there in the car. Yep. They're not doing anything. They're being compliant. Like you see, the other thing I see a lot of people talking about, Botham I'm sorry to say his name wrong, but Botham, isn't he the pillar example of what you're supposed to do to not get killed?
Exactly. In your home eating ice cream. Yes, ma'am.
Isn't he the pillar of, I go to church, I work a job, I'm at home, I'm not on the street, I'm not a drug dealer, I'm not a gangster.
Went to school.
I went to school. Family, pay attention.
Wow. That's
well said.
That's very accurate, very powerful, and I agree with you. I think we should just have a new rule that says if your church is the nicest building in your neighborhood, then you need to look in the mirror because we're gonna question you about that. Like seriously, your church should not be the nicest building in your neighborhood by a long shot, because that says a whole lot about you, as an institution. So Jessica,
before Jessica gets the last word, can I just say this really quick to our attorney's sister? I think you said this earlier. She had said something about whether or not, and I forgot to mention this, whether or not what we're doing basically makes a difference. I say this all the time on the podcast, is that our open enemies are light years ahead of us, Black folks, as it relates to this war. And necessarily so. When you cheat for hundreds and hundreds of years, you know what I'm saying? You're gonna be ahead of us as it relates to warfare. There requires a lot of patience and a lot of teaching and a lot of intentionality, a lot of creativity with our people, because when you are oppressed for 464 years and they've done a doozy on your mind and your brain and it's generational, it's going to take a while for us to break through. In fact, Honorable Elijah Muhammad says that when God spoke to him, he let him know that it was going to be the hardest job he had, dealing basically with Black folk, because we're stiff-neck, hard-headed people, but we've also been indoctrinated, we've been programmed. So I want to say that because we haven't had access to the high places, as we call it, to powerful places like Congress, like media, like Wall Street, and we're rising up now to do that. We're using social media even to do it. That requires also a patience with our people. And we know that we're making a difference. It's going to take some time, just like when the farmer seeds something. It starts small in the beginning, but it's going to take some time with us because we're unusual people. And unlike Becky and them, unlike Chuck and them, unlike anybody else, nobody has our unique history of 464 years of oppression and still counting. So it makes a difference, and it starts with us changing our minds, and it starts with us opening up our mouths, and we're going to have to keep at it. And little bit by little bit, I believe it's going to work, and it does matter in what we're doing in social media. It matters when we're trying to educate our people, and it's going to take a minute for us to get a harvest from that, because we're a unique people and we're dealing with hundreds of years of indoctrination and trauma. So we have to be patient with each other, but we have to know we're making a difference. Few of us showed up in the election of 2016. They're listening to what we're saying on social media. Every major political candidate is talking about what, family? Even if they're not talking about it sincerely, what are they talking about? Reparations. And they're talking about what? A Black agenda. Where are they getting it from? Are y'all hearing me? So they're afraid, they're scared, and they're listening, and it matters, and we have to keep going with it. So let me shut up and let Jessica talk.
All right, Jessica, last word.
So what I want to say is that it's interesting that this conversation took this turn. We were kind of supposed to be doing a continuation of what we talked about at the All Black National Convention, but this was poignant. But what's funny is that we could wrap this up and tie this up to exactly what some of the things we were talking about, which is that there's division in our communities, that we need to learn to support and take care of one another. And I'll also say that, you know, this is the first time that I've joined the ladies and joined this type of conversation. Normally I'm on the business side talking about this is how you make the money and this is how you do this. So this was a really great experience for me. But I'm going to say that even if you don't agree 100% with the views and with the things that are being said, at the same time, as Ronique said, as I said, we have to be educated. We have to read. We have to get information and process it for ourselves. We often come in with our perspective and we want to shut things down and not really see things for, we're not really willing and open to take another person's opinion. True. And all I'll say is that sometimes you think that your opinion is right, possibly because you don't have the information. And as when he started, it's not that you believe every single thing that is said, that you share every view that is said, because to be honest, sometimes I don't. I have my views about things that I believe and things that I feel, but at the same time, I do know that our community are dying, and they shouldn't be. I do know that people in our communities are still in 2009 starving, and they shouldn't be. I do know that even though that there's hunger and there's children of every color, race, and creed out here that are also starving, but alarming, we're pushed out of our neighborhoods. I do know that we often, as you said, do not have a seat at the table, and the type of conversation at the All Black National Convention, which was when they see us too, our Black women are not being represented as the queens, as the mothers of this world, of this universe, and put up the way that we should. But we're able to bear children. We bear the children that give you the ideas that are taken, that are used, that are appropriated, that lend to the culture that is being vultured. I mean, it's ridiculous to me that we also still in our own communities are not supporting one another because we want to fight against each other. And it's where the fighting is we're crabs in a barrel. And it's time out for that, because all these other cultures that we've been talking about tonight that unite together, they all have a united voice for the most part. They all come forward and they all, for the most part, have the same thing and say the same things. And we're the only ones that are on 50 different pages. And we have to start creating some type of unity and start studying and reading and getting information so that we can at least start to be on one accord and be able to understand and be able to fight battles when we see it, so that we're not sitting in our living room eating ice cream and having folks just coming in our house snuffing us out because we're confused or because they're confused. They need to understand that we're no longer confused, and then maybe some of this will stop happening.
All right. Well, I think that's a great tone to finish up with. Everybody who's watching in the chat, I would like for you to do us a quick favor and type the word unity in the chat. Type the word unity. I think if we can learn anything from this, it's about finding a way to find some way to stay on code. I think unity is very important. And I told you, I always repeat to y'all over and over again, I'm not fighting with no Black people this year. I'm just, I don't have the energy. Y'all had to get in line behind the white supremacists. I'll fight that. I'm not gonna fight my brother or my sister. If we disagree, if you disagree with me, be man or woman enough to come in my channel and debate me, and then I'm gonna learn from you, and my position will be expanded. But if your goal is to just say attack, and you fighting Black people harder than you fighting white supremacists, then I'm gonna think something's wrong with you. I'm gonna think you might be on some COINTELPRO stuff. Okay. Acting like that. So everybody type unity in the chat. Everybody, please hit the thumbs up button. Those of you who are actually in this actually inside the Zoom, I would like for you all, if you could you please respond to the survey for the All Black National Convention. So far, the results have been very, very good. I just make sure you guys know that we have almost complete 100% agreement that we asked them specifically. So we said, would you like to come back? Will you come back in the future? Do you think this is worth coming back to? 96% of the respondents said yes.
Wow.
That makes me incredibly happy. Yes. And also when we asked, do you feel that the All Black National Convention gave you solutions that are going to help you in your life? I think 96% said yes. We had one person who said no. And like I said, if you are that person, please, I really want to talk to you, because I really want to know, what happened, how we can serve you better, and also your ideas. They didn't go unheard. We're meeting to talk about ways to do the convention better next year. Right now, Detroit is our leading city. There's the link to fill out the survey. And Detroit is our leading city. We're not 100% sure yet, but we are headed in that direction for the next convention. And also the next event is going to be an investment summit that we're having. Those also get almost 100% like I love you ratings. Like we do customer surveys relentlessly to make sure we're giving people what they want. So we're going to be in New York, October 27th. If you want to come out, go to drboycenewyork.com. That's drboycenewyork.com. Let me say thank you to the panelists. Please give them a digital round of applause. Yes, that's the survey, Jay Wilson. It's right there. There's the link right there. The panelist, Miss Jessica Smith, CPA. She's a brilliant Black woman. She is a founder of a lot. Her company is Jessica Smith and Company. Jessica Smith and Company. Okay, yes, out of Chicago. And Ronique West is are you the founder of the Black Chamber of Commerce?
Yeah, co-founder of the Greater Augusta Black Chamber of Commerce, and my company is R3 Unlimited LLC, and you can follow me on Instagram at Ronique M West. They'll take you to everything.
All right. And also we have Miss Vicki Dillard, who did a keynote speech that tore the house down. Vicki was officially, I think you might have been the star of the convention. Vicki went up there and just ate it up. Everybody did great. Everybody did. The women's panel was amazing. But Vicki went up there, and I know Vicki's great, and I know how well she does on her show on FlyNewBeingQueenTV.com. But I didn't know what the keynote was going to be like. And all I know is everybody was jumping up and down and going crazy, ready to run out and conquer the world. So she is absolutely an extraordinary person, and I'm really honored to have you, Vicki. So if anybody wants to follow Vicki, she's actually live every night, Monday through Friday, at what is it, 6:30, Vicki? 6:30
yes, sir. 6:30 Eastern.
6:30 Eastern at FlyNewBeingQueenTV.com. That's FlyNewBeingQueenTV.com. So thank you, everybody.
Just before we go, Dr. Boyce, I want to say thank you. Thank you. A Black man that has created a platform for the voices of Black women. And I have my company that had been defunct for so many years that's risen up with my few dollars that I use. Come on, somebody talk Black to me on purpose. And again, for someone that's considered to be disabled, where I'm stuck literally for days at a time, family, that I can't leave, and to be able to reach the world, that's a blessing. And I want to thank you for providing this platform for us to make a difference, even when I can't go out like I want to, Doc. To be able to do this and to start from literally nothing, this makes me feel more than a queen. And I want to thank you so very much, and my sisters. And when I got there to meet real people with real testimonies, Doc, with real testimonies about being reached, that was possible. That's only possible because you provided this. And I wrote in my journal, took pictures about one day me being able to speak at a platform behind a podium and being able to make a difference in person, and able to manifest that by being able to keynote one of the sessions at the allblacknationalconvention.com and to meet my amazing sisters and experts and powerful Black women in the meantime. This was heaven. And I want to say again, thank you.
Oh, well, thank you. I don't feel like I was doing anything special by supporting Black women, because without Black women, there are no Black men. There are no Black people, right? So when I support the Black woman, not only am I doing what I'm supposed to do, but I'm supporting life. And I say to those brothers that don't support Black women, if you're not supporting life, then you must be supporting death, because we can't survive, we can't prosper without the Black woman. And I think that if we were going to critique ourselves as a community, one thing that we can critique and we should critique is the fact that there's a lack of Black female voices that are being pushed out to the forefront. And so, so I didn't do anything special for you, Vicki. Your talent did it all. Your intelligence did it, and your good spirit. And that's one thing I'll say publicly in terms of why I like working with Vicki, is that and I think it has a lot to do with my favorite group, in the world, the Nation of Islam, in that she has a way of kind of functioning in a business setting. You know, everybody that we work with, when we work together as a team, there's a way you maintain relationships. There's a way you handle disputes. There's a way you come together to resolve problems and overcome challenges. And I like that. Like I just like working with good people, you know. And so that's what I will say to everybody. You know, Vicki's talented, and talent is nice. Talent is wonderful, but most importantly, you've got a core of goodness in terms of who you are as a person. And that's something that I respect. So, and same thing is true for you, Jessica, as well. I've worked with you for 3 years. Ronique, you and I, we've been working a lot since the last convention. When you came in, we were talking, and so this is really fun. You know, I really think all of us as Black people having a voice and working together. That's what I want. You know, I want unity. So everybody type unity in the chat.
Unity. Let me do it. Let me do it too.
Yes. So God bless everybody. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. It was so much fun. And next week, we're going to actually do this again. Everybody who's in the Zoom, if you could go fill out that survey for me, please, so we can find out how to serve you better in the next convention and all of our future events. We would really appreciate your feedback. And anybody else, if you're in the Black Business School, if you haven't talked to one of our reps there, just go to theblackbusinessschool.com. We have a free membership where you can get started. You ain't got to have a nickel in your pocket. We want to help you to get going, and we got people right there waiting on the line that can talk to you right now about your personal wealth plan and your economic future. So feel free to go to theblackbusinessschool.com and check it out. We're here to help you. We just want to serve the community and do our best to build something that's going to be sustainable for the next 400 years. So God bless everybody. Thank you again, ladies. It was awesome. And
love you, queens. Love you, Black family.
Thank you. Love y'all too. Bye.